Meghan, a geriatric mother. The family claims and states that Meghan had a hysterectomy. How can a woman with a hysterectomy be pregnant? And most of all, why did the royal family go along with this? And what's going to happen now that this has come out? This is a punishable crime. This is fraud in the highest levels.
Things just got a whole load worse for Meghan Markle because her sister Samantha ain't going anywhere. This crisis won't die down until the irrefutable truth comes out.
So all of the pictures, my point is, out there were inconsistent with the idea of a real pregnancy.
And is using everything for publicity and not really truly there. We know how she treats her family and friends.
All description she does of the Portland hospital, the birth, that was completely fabricated. We all know the first interview was...
A royal physician was not allowed to examine her womb. I mean, I don't know about anybody else, but if I were pregnant with a royal child, you would want that child in the best care of the best medical practitioners that money could buy.
Everything she's done has only drawn more speculation and brought the controversies back up about how Meghan and Harry have handled all of this, as well as the rumors that perhaps they used a surrogate for one or both of the children.
That she has that child in a vice-like grip. And it's, you know, if they were a husband and wife team, there are laws now about coercive control.
I mean, her father is recovering from a stroke, literally about a 3-hour drive. I mean, could you believe that? She doesn't have a father.
I grew up as an only child, which everyone who grew up around me knows. I would have loved to have had siblings, so I'm so excited to be pregnant so that Archie has someone.
Like, why lie? It was just so truly true.
They want to hide their secrets, and I just love digging away to find out what they don't want us to know.
All Harry and Meghan need to do is prove to us that she popped those babies out. And that's all they need to do. And if they don't, it is unfair on the children. It's also unfair on the royal family.
I do believe because there are no delivery certificates
with either Archie or Lily, and it needs to happen. They need to prove that those children, Meghan and Harry, are not entitled to privacy in this matter. And their privacy is trumped by our right to know that no bastard is going to sit on the throne of this country.
And I thought, is she not contextually aware? She's trying to hide something. This is really sloppy.
They called her a modern Cinderella, but let's be real. That glass slipper was never meant to fit. Meghan Markle didn't just wear it, she forced it on, shattered it into pieces, and then somehow sold the broken shards to Netflix. From the glitz of Hollywood to the marble walls of Buckingham Palace, she spun a fairy tale everyone wanted to believe in. But the truth, it was never a love story. It was a production. Meghan turned the crown into a stage.
In my opinion, she would still be a waitress if it wasn't for Dad.
The palace into a set, and herself into both the weeping victim and the controlling director of her own royal drama. Every tear she cried was perfectly timed.
Did you make Kate cry?
No, the reverse happened.
Every private moment somehow ended up right where the cameras could find it. You have to hand it to her. The PR game was sharp, cold, and genius. But the thing about masks is they crack, especially when someone who knows the real you decides to speak.
You have been lied about for a series of years. How hurtful that is.
And that's exactly what happened. Because behind the flawless smiles, the royal wave, and all that talk about compassion, her own sister, Samantha Markle, stepped out of the shadows. And she wasn't holding back. Samantha said there was a secret Meghan guarded tighter than the crown jewels. Something about the pregnancies, the children, the very bloodline itself. When Samantha told people to check the timeline, no one expected what would come next. But they did. And what they found didn't just raise eyebrows, it burned the internet.
People think her kids are fake. They think they're AI.
I'm going to quote Tom Bauer by saying, he said, look, we all laughed at Samantha and she was right. And everything she said has come
down. If she's right, then Meghan's picture-perfect motherhood might be nothing more than a perfectly staged illusion. For years, whispers about her pregnancies floated around. Photos didn't match. Dates didn't line up. Everything felt off. And then Samantha, who had once defended her little sister from bullies, finally broke her silence. She said, "If Meghan can rewrite history, then I'll remind the world what really happened." And with one quiet line, "People need to look at the timeline." She lit a fire that not even the palace could put out. See, Meghan's pregnancy story never truly added up. The bump, the secrecy, the miracle photo ops that looked more like rehearsed scenes, it all smelled like PR, not pregnancy. Samantha didn't need to scream. Her silence spoke louder than Meghan's Netflix interviews. When she smiled and said nothing, the world started to connect dots that Meghan's team never wanted connected. Doctors' names disappeared from statements. Birth certificates came late, if they came at all. And then that infamous clip, the one where Meghan's baby bump seemed to fold. The internet lost its mind. Still, Meghan stayed quiet, smiling in public like nothing happened, clutching baby Archie in the stiffest, strangest way, while comparisons to Kate only made things worse. Because while Kate played effortlessly with baby Louis, Meghan's arms looked wooden, her eyes distant, like a woman performing motherhood, not living it. Then came the whispers about a surgery from her Hollywood days, the kind that could make pregnancy impossible. Old stories resurfaced, old friends reappeared, and suddenly that perfect royal fairy tale started to look like a carefully built mirage. People compared the photos. Archie as a baby in one picture didn't even look like the same child from the next. And little Lilibet, even her features didn't match across appearances. The public noticed, and once they noticed, they couldn't unsee it. At some point, coincidence stops being coincidence. And Samantha knew it. But then the story got darker, because a new name appeared, DL. She wasn't famous. She wasn't royal. She didn't even use her full name, just 2 letters. She said she had stayed silent for years under NDAs, watching the royal fairy tale unfold on TV while she hid in plain sight. DL claimed she wasn't just a witness, she was part of it. She said she carried Meghan and Harry's children, and the world exploded. The way DL told it, it sounded like a spy thriller. Marble clinics in Beverly Hills, fake names, private visits. Meghan and Harry, she said, came in disguise. Everything was planned, from appointments to the timing of Meghan's public appearances. She said after every procedure, she was told to vanish. No photos, no records, no proof, just money and silence. Her voice trembled when she finally spoke, not from fear, but from anger. They treated me like a vessel, she said, like I didn't exist. It wasn't a tabloid headline anymore. It was a direct hit at the palace's image. And then DL said something that made even Samantha pause. She had proof. Clinic forms. Ultrasounds labeled with code names, payment receipts bouncing through shell companies, encrypted emails that matched Meghan's public pregnancy appearances. The world froze. Every date, every file, every visit, it all lined up. She even claimed a doctor who allegedly delivered Lilibet mysteriously shut down her practice 2 weeks later. And when people doubted her, DL raised the stakes. If I'm lying, I'll take a DNA test on live TV. That one line tore the internet in half. Hashtags trended. News anchors gasped. Comment sections turned into war zones. Was she lying? Or was she the ghost mother the palace wanted to erase? And while the world screamed, the palace said nothing. No denial, no confirmation. Just silence. But that silence screamed louder than anything else. Because if DL was lying, why wasn't Meghan suing her? Why wasn't Harry protecting his family's name? Instead, Samantha reappeared with a quiet quote from her father. The truth doesn't fear questions. No shouting, no anger, just that. And suddenly, the royal family's carefully painted image started cracking like porcelain. The palace panicked. Meetings were held. Lawyers were called. Behind closed doors, they were terrified. Not just for Meghan's reputation, but for the monarchy itself. Because if DL's DNA test ever turned out to be real, everything would collapse. Royal succession law has an ancient clause. Heirs must be born of the body. If Meghan's children weren't, then technically, they wouldn't be in line for the throne. That's not gossip. That's constitutional chaos. And suddenly, this wasn't about Meghan and Samantha anymore. It was about the future of the monarchy. The palace scrambled. Legal teams whispered about rewriting birth announcements. PR firms crafted emergency narratives. But the damage was already done. The public had seen too much. People started digging through old footage, analyzing every detail. Meghan's dress, her walk, the baby's stillness in Harry's arms, the home birth rumors, the disappearing doctors, the missing signatures on birth announcements. Every missing detail became another nail in the coffin of her credibility. Even royal historians admitted they'd never seen this kind of secrecy. And when Meghan finally spoke in her Oprah interview, her story twisted again, claiming Archie was denied a title because of his race. But royal experts pointed out that's not how titles work, and the contradictions only made things worse. Still, through all the noise, Samantha stayed calm. Her interviews weren't explosive anymore. They were surgical. Each sentence stripped away a layer of Meghan's royal armor. She didn't rant or curse. She spoke like someone who had already accepted exile. Every time Meghan tried to move on, releasing podcasts, documentaries, or speeches, Samantha's shadow followed. Because no matter what she did, the question refused to die. Was it all real? And then came Samantha's final interview. No makeup, no glam, just her voice and one haunting line. Only if the truth stops being the truth, That was her answer when asked if she regretted exposing her sister. 10 words that sliced through every royal PR statement like glass. Because now it wasn't about jealousy, it wasn't even about family, it was about truth. She said she didn't want fame or pity. She just wanted the lies to stop being louder than reality. Her words echoed, "History will remember who told the truth first." Within hours, her clip went viral. Millions watched. Some called her brave, others called her bitter, but everyone listened. Because no matter how many royal portraits or documentaries Meghan puts out, there's a stain that no PR campaign can polish. A sister's truth, or revenge, depending on who you believe. The fairy tale didn't end with a kiss or a crown. It ended with doubt, DNA, and silence. And the question no one can kill: what if Samantha's right? Every royal story ends the same way, with silence. But this silence was heavier, colder. Meghan and Harry didn't deny, didn't confirm, didn't even blink. They just smiled for cameras as the world tore itself apart over what might be the biggest royal secret since Diana's tapes. And that's when people realized this wasn't about scandal anymore. It was about truth. Because when Samantha said, "Look at the timeline," the world did. And suddenly every photo, every statement, every hospital announcement looked like a carefully written script. Even the Buckingham Palace easel, that gold frame they've used since the 1800s to announce royal births, didn't add up. George, Charlotte, and Louis all had their doctor's signatures, but Archie's? Blank. No names, no witnesses, just a polished statement about the Queen being delighted. People noticed. Reporters dug through archives. Conspiracy channels compared ultrasound shadows. And the deeper they went, the more it looked like Meghan's motherhood was less about love and more about control. The palace, of course, said nothing, but insiders whispered about panic meetings, frantic calls to lawyers, and quiet orders to contain the narrative. Because if DL's documents were ever verified, if even one of those ultrasound forms turned out to be real, it wouldn't just be a PR disaster. It would rewrite royal history. Samantha didn't gloat. She didn't scream. She just repeated what she'd said from the beginning. The truth doesn't fear questions. That line became a rallying cry. Her supporters said she was brave. Her critics called her cruel. But deep down, even Meghan's defenders couldn't explain the missing details. Then DL's words resurfaced. That DNA dare. "If I'm lying, I'll take the test on live TV." That line haunted the palace, because silence at that point looked like fear. People started connecting dots no one wanted connected. How Meghan's birth announcements always seemed to appear hours late. How her labor started after the baby was already born. How every doctor involved seemed to vanish into early retirement or convenient silence. Even royal watchers who defended her for years began to wonder, what if we were all fooled? And through all that noise, Samantha reappeared one last time. No makeup, no filters, just a sister stripped of patience. The interviewer asked her if she regretted everything. She smiled faintly, leaned forward and said, "Only if the truth stops being the truth." That moment broke the internet. It wasn't anger, it was exhaustion. Years of being painted as the jealous outsider, years of watching her family torn apart for a fairy tale she never got to believe in. She said she didn't want fame, didn't want pity. "I just want the truth to stop being treated like poison," she whispered. That single sentence sent shockwaves through the royal bubble. Because whether Samantha was right or not, she'd forced the world to look twice. Behind palace walls, insiders whispered about DNA, legal loopholes, and the terrifying idea that the monarchy's succession could be legally challenged. Outside, the public screamed for answers. Supporters of the Sussexes accused the world of cruelty. Skeptics accused Meghan of treason. And in between stood one fractured family that might never heal. Every fairy tale has a villain. But here, no one knew who it was anymore. Meghan, the ambitious duchess who played her role too well? Samantha, the sister who refused to stay silent? Or the palace itself, desperate to bury another truth before it destroys what's left of its crown? By the time Samantha's last line aired, history will remember who told the truth first. The royal illusion was shattered, because for once it wasn't about crowns or titles. It was about two sisters, one silence, and a truth too loud to bury. And when the curtain fell, there was no applause, just a quiet question echoing through the kingdom. What if the fairy tale was never real at all?